In my video talking about some of my favorite Sega arcade racing games, I mentioned 18-wheeler American Pro Trucker. It's a pleasantly fun title, created by Yu Suzuki at AM2 in 1999. The game revolves around a one-to-one between you and a rival trucker named Lizardtail. You must deliver cargo from one state to another before the time limit. If you get your cargo through the finish line before Lizardtail, you unlock a minigame where you park your truck in a tight building complex. Do this before the time limit and you'll unlock parts for your truck that should theoretically help out with the game's difficulty. I say theoretically because this game is seriously tricky. Even when setting the arcade cabinet to easy, I was still unable to get past the second stage. Therefore, most of the gameplay seen here is of the Dreamcast port, which is very faithful to the arcade version, with the exception of reduced texture detail. The Naomi has exceptional texture quality in all fairness, and when you upscale the whole game to a modern resolution, it does look really good. Back to the difficulty, you can pick your character. Each character has different characteristics regarding their speed, torque, and toughness. There's Highway Cowboy, Nippon Maru, Streamline, Longhorn, and Highway Cat. Furthermore, not only does your truck feel slower in the arcade release than over on Dreamcast, but in both versions, Lizardtail is frankly an asshole. AM2 has really nailed his character. He will happily overtake you, then brake check you so you lose all your speed and have to put in another coin in the machine as you have no chance of making a checkpoint. When he does get ahead of you, provided he hasn't decided to slow down to get in your way, you can easily get ahead of him by using Slipstream, which you can achieve by staying behind any large truck, whether it's Lizardtails or not. If you don't want to play the minigames, I suppose you can also forego the competitive road rage element of the game and just focus on staying on the road and not getting too ahead of Lizardtail for him to start fighting you. Up to you how you wish to tackle that. Just make sure you hit as many time bonus fans as you can, as they really do help, and use your horn to get cars to move out of your way. Really, the game gives you a very tight tolerance, and one mistake can cost you your coin. However, this isn't too dissimilar to other arcade titles from Sega. Outrun, for example, also requires a near-perfect run, and one crash can very much make the difference of winning or losing. 18-wheeler has lovely graphics, similarly to Outrun, but frankly also like most other Sega racing games of that time period, the textures are photorealistic, which do look better on a CRT as its natural smoothing helps to make the otherwise hard cutoffs of these textures blend instead, making the game look more realistic than what you've seen so far. But still, even at 4K, the environmental detail can be very much appreciated, and I especially like the real-life brands advertised in the game, similar to Crazy Taxi. Sega gets money for including these brands, and we get a world that feels more realistic. Win-win. Within each stage, you get to pick your cargo. The harder cargo gives you more money, though it doesn't make a massive difference to the overall gameplay, other than providing an extra challenge. You start in New York and travel to Key West, St. Petersburg, Dallas, Las Vegas, and finish in San Francisco. The courses are short, so is the whole game really, but there is a nice variety in how each city looks, with challenging weather conditions and time of day. Each track also has an alternative route that you can take, which unknowingly also provides an extra challenge, as one track will be more difficult than the other. You sort of know which route you will end up taking once you beat the game once, and beat it you will, as it takes under 20 minutes to do so, provided that you are good, or have the Dreamcast version on the easy setting, which I do personally find to be on the slightly too easy side. So that's 18-wheeler American Pro Trucker. For the viewers of my original video, I hope I didn't repeat myself too much, but today I want to focus more on its spiritual sequel, The King of Route 66. This was released in 2002 by AM2. However, Yu Suzuki was not the producer for this title. Like 18-wheeler, the arcade version of the game is very light on explaining the story. I mention this now as the PS2 version, which we'll take a look at last, has a vastly different approach to both storytelling and general gameplay. But from what we can deduct purely from the arcade version, Noisy Duck is a character that keeps being tormented by the Tornado Boys, who are Lizardtail and Bigfoot. There are other characters, but they are not mentioned by name. Hey, we can finally see what Lizardtail looks like. These little cutscenes are really rather pleasant and fun to watch, and because it's a Japanese game from that time period, it means cheesy English voice acting and baked in subtitles that don't exactly correlate to what the voice actors are saying. Classic. The gameplay follows a set structure. First you deliver cargo. Afterwards, you drive to another location to pick up cargo. Then you must play a minigame that involves you lining up your truck perfectly with the trailer in as quick of a time as possible. The better you do here, the more nitro you'll get. Yes, this game has nitro now. As there aren't any time pickups anymore, having nitro is pretty much essential to completing a run, whether that's due to running out of time or one of the Tornado Boys being up ahead. This is another difference compared to 18-wheeler. You will lose if the opponent crosses the finish line first. If you were playing this in an arcade, you could use the CB radio to shout "Nitro!" in order to activate it. The CB radio, I believe, could also be used to talk to other players in the multiplayer cabinet. Another change compared to 18-wheeler is that you no longer have the ability to switch gears, it's all automatic. As with the previous game, You get to choose which cargo you pick up. However, this doesn't give you extra points at the expense of making the game harder, with the trailer weighing more. In this game, each cargo has a different drop-off point. If you aren't expecting it, like me during the first playthrough of this game, you can absolutely drive the wrong way to the drop-off location, as the game is semi-open world. While the previous game had an element of destructibility, here you can drive through practically everything. If you stay glued to the road, more often than not, you will not have time to make it to the finish line. You have to drive through trees and buildings and have your eyes peeled on any shortcuts they can take. I didn't realize that in the final stages in Arizona, you can even drive down the hill, which is a massive time saver, compared to slowly driving through the windy roads. Basically, your expectations of real-life physics do not apply here. Overall, there are 3 areas with 15 stages to complete. During gameplay, you also have AI drivers who ask if they can tag along with you. This improves your speed slightly, due to drag efficiency and aerodynamics and science. It also theoretically helps with blocking the opponent too, but it's not like they always stick to the road anyway. You can also change between the bird's eye view and cockpit view. Depending on which character you pick, you also get a different ending cutscene. We have Texas Hawk from the original game. Well, kind of. In the first game, he was called Asphalt Cowboy, and I suppose he worked for Texas Hawk, I think. Alongside him, Highway Cat makes a return. There's Iron Bull, Soulman, and Ichiban. They're all pretty similar characters from what we saw in 18-Wheeler. As it's an arcade title, the game isn't very long. It took me 16 minutes to get to the final stage. However, that final stage is a right bitch, and I haven't been able to complete the game because of it. I just keep running out of time. Also, if you do run out of time, once you throw another coin in, your time gets set back to maximum, and the nitro that you've used previously also replenishes. As this is an arcade title and they want maximum profit, you only get a set amount of time replenished between stages. This means that if you finish the last stage with 1 second left, you are guaranteed not to have enough time in the next stage. I am sure you're aware of this concept, especially if you played Sega Rally. I have played with the arcade machine set to the easy difficulty, and while you still have a lot of time remaining when you collect a cargo, it's the rival races, they are the ones that get you. A few months after the arcade release, Sega released the King of Route 66 on the PS2. Remember when Sega actually cared about porting arcade titles to home consoles? Unlike the Dreamcast port of 18-Wheeler, which did not include much new in terms of gameplay, it seems like Sega took these negative reviews to heart, as we not only have the arcade King of Route 66, but we have the Queen of Route 66 too. Plus, like the Crazy Taxi port, we have challenge maps, as well as Rival Chase, which has you destroy your opponent before they hit the finish line. And there is a 2-player multiplayer mode too. Before I get into the main game, King of Route 66, let me bring up the Queen of Route 66. You earn money with which you can upgrade a truck by kitting it out with various parts that improve speed, power and acceleration. These parts aren't just on-paper upgrades too, so you can visually change a truck quite a lot. You can also buy power-ups including those that didn't exist in the arcade version, such as bombs, time bonuses and some more powerful nitros. You can even buy completely new trucks, not seen before. Each character that you pick has their own unique music and bar. Within each state, you meet a new state queen, who has a problem that she needs you to sort out. The Illinois queen, for example, has had her jewels stolen, and it is your job to collect them all. This goes from fun to tedious super quickly, as you essentially play the Illinois map in 2 parts, and then the full map on the 3rd stage. You don't get any direction as to where these jewels are, so if you don't pay attention, you can miss a jewel that you won't have the time to go back and pick up. But whatever. After a lot of restarts and route optimization, which was satisfying in all fairness, I got rewarded with a cutscene, where apparently this is all happening on a televised show or something? Anyway, our character wins a year's supply of Chicago-style pizza. And a special dance from the Queen. Yep, that is the gimmick of this game mode. A birdie told me that you can even unlock all of the state queens in bikinis if you put way too much time into this game mode. Afterwards, we get this romantic cutscene, and since I've picked the only female character in the game, I was interested on seeing how Sega would approach this, and actually they've done this pretty gracefully. The Illinois girl is talking about closing her jewelry shop and coming with me, while the Texas Hawk talks about love. Highway Cat just goes, yep, sounds good. Texas Hawk goes in for a hug and a kiss, and Cat just goes for a high five. It's nice that the devs didn't make these cutscenes into some lesbian fantasy, although I won't give them too much credit because of the inclusion of Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball tier jiggle physics. Then afterwards, we have to do much of the same for the Missouri Queen. Actually, it's even worse, since you have to smash into crates. Not enough speed and the boxes won't break. This was so incredibly tedious, I have given up with this game mode. So the footage that you are seeing here comes from the YouTuber Aaron Monroe. But yeah, each state has you do the same thing 3 times. Kansas has you avoid a trucker throwing crap out of the trailer. Oklahoma requires you to finish the stage in time without hitting anything. Texas crash into truckers, and so on and so forth. It's all pretty similar to the main game. You do get some special knocks when you beat this mode, but I won't spoil them for anyone who wants to complete this mode. Let me just say, however, they are very on brand. As mentioned, the King of Route 66 has an updated story. Route 66 used to be nice and peaceful, but those days have long since passed, as the route has been taken over by greed from a single company, Tornado, who are essentially a mafia, and with their tactics, they've gained a monopoly on deliveries. Truckers longed for a hero that could defeat Tornado. That hero is you. The King of Route 66 features some of the same cutscenes as the arcade version, which, while they don't add much to said story, it helps to paint the overall picture of Tornado being tyrants. These cutscenes that were animated in-game on the arcade version are pre-recorded here, and in a pretty fuzzy quality, which is a shame. Because of Sega's love for CRI middleware at the time, it means that the video is encoded with softdeck, which was an MPEG-1 wrapper. Perfect for Sega Dreamcast, pretty outdated for the PS2 era. It's funny that the Playboy-like magazine that Noisy Dog has in his cab has been blurred here. Were the devs worried about being too close to the real Playboy logo? Or were they worried about the PEGI and ESRB rating? Who knows? Alongside these familiar cutscenes, we also get new computer-generated FMVs for this plot expansion. These revolve around the boss not being happy that his business is being threatened. We do have the exact same missions as the arcade version. However, the game has been expanded to have little story elements in between each stage. You will talk to the business owners, who are asking you to take their deliveries and watch out for Tornado. Then a new character that you'll be up against gets introduced, versus only Lizardtail and Bigfoot in the arcade version. These characters get crazier and crazier as you play through the game. It's like Sega was aiming to take every stereotype with this game. You think Cactus the Mexican who says "Hey amigo" at the end of every line is bad, and then straight after you hit with Master Chin who, well, let me just show it to you instead.
So, you are that annoying thorn in Tornado's side. This might actually be interesting. Let's see how good you can really drive.
You honestly cannot help but laugh at this game's absurdity. You even get to race against the boss's secretary. Fuck it, why not? Every character's included here. So, let me tell you about some changes. When you are against a rival to deliver cargo first, the time limit has been removed. Makes sense, I suppose. It removes a challenge, but that challenge only existed to get you to put a coin in, / not spend too long at the arcade machine. Depending how much money your parents gave you, I suppose. The convoys have also been removed, and likewise the help on when you should use nitro. The trucks are much faster in the PS2 version too, which I can't quite make out the reason as to why. When you restart, you lose money on the cargo, which feels like a massive dick move. If you care for the highest score, you'll want to reload your save instead. Also, Highway Cat has gone skimpier in the PS2 version, which is a strange choice, but sure. There might be some other changes too that I'm very obviously missing, but let's move on. I like the fact that King of Route 66 has a Sega world building, which is pretty neat. I would have loved to visit one when they were still a thing. The gameplay is practically just as chaotic as 18-wheeler, and it really does toe the line of satisfying and infuriating. Expect to restart because your opponent was a dick and cut you off just before the finishing line. Expect to make a small mistake that will cost you your run. The game is at least not awfully hard on PS2. I had it set to easy when I first played through the game, and I did complete it, but then I got greeted to a screen that told me that I don't deserve to see the ending because I played it in easy mode. Switching to normal, I didn't notice the game feel much harder, but those final stages, just like in the arcade, they will take constant restarts. Although it's not too easy to talk about difficulty since I played the PS2 version last, so I was pretty used to the controls at that point. I think that's all that there is for me to say about 18-wheeler and King of Route 66. I do truly recommend checking both of these games out if you're a fan of classic Sega racing arcade games. Thank you for making it this far into this video. See you soon.